Morning. You're probably saying to yourself, hey Popgun, what does 250 episodes look like? And it looks like this, essentially. All the paper ones here, and then I don't know how many I used to just keep track of these things in notebooks, so I don't have that anymore. It's like I was gonna get you. I was gonna get more of these, I didn't. Let me just pull out a random one here and try to figure out what I was talking about that day. LSL number 30. SOS number 111 was won by Decay. Legato took second place, and SpongeBob finished in the top 3. I don't even remember. I know who Legato is. No idea who Decay is. Sonder won Proving Grounds, I remember that. Synergy won the SAC opener. Loaded Diaper finished in second place. I remember Sanctuary. Is this really all of them? I feel like I'm missing. Autobiography? I pretty much made it already. Like, it's all documented. Thank you for highlighting that stupid message in chat. Thank you. You know, it really screwed me over if I somehow got today's episode lost in all of that. I probably wouldn't find it. Anyways, hello. I don't know what that is, Tabri. I'm 34. I'm too old for whatever that is, I would assume. Hellos are in order. Hello, Techie Lepus, Baja Blast _ Z, Keone, Strings. First time in chat, Strings. How about that? Pick Pig, congratulations on whatever it is you did yesterday. Become Low Ink. Mr. Egg, how's Mrs. Egg doing? Or other Mr. Egg. Is that / exclamation or semicolon? One of the most famous Luna blasters in Low Ink of all time. Next month? There is no next month. Oh, wait, no, you're royalty. You might not get it next month. You guys might be done. We haven't obviously started verifying for next month, but I think I've seen enough of royalty. I don't think you guys have anything left to prove in Low Ink. Or I could be wrong. I don't know. Why couldn't the Luna Blaster win Low Ink? They didn't want it. It comes down to who wanted it more. Programming joke? What is the Bolt? What is the reference to the //? Is that a programming thing? I haven't touched Cube Basic since high school. And then I did Visual Basic my freshman year of college. That's not right. There's a Luna group chat. I would assume the requirements to be in the Luna group chat would be play Luna Blaster. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or VOD, Twitch or YouTube, or Spotify, while you are sharing your cat pictures with the IPL Blue Sky account, playing a fishing game in chat in the middle of the Low Ink pre-show, coming to the unsettling realization that your parents are going to buy you an Alarmo for Christmas. Whatever it is that you're doing right now. appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. Hey, the Alarmo thing just gets me. Like I just don't understand it. Like, who would ever buy something like that? If that was a thing that came out 20 years ago, oh hell yeah. But it just crossed my mind. There's going to be a lot of parents who don't understand anything about like video games or Nintendo or anything like that. They're going to be like, "Oh, here's a Nintendo thing. Oh, it's an alarm clock. My kid's going to love this." And they're going to buy a $100 alarm clock for their kid for Christmas. It's going to happen. And when that happens and your parents get you that, be thankful. Be thankful you have parents who are at least trying to understand you even though they are failing, all right? Like, thanks, Mom and Dad. I appreciate the effort, because that's definitely going to happen to a lot of you youngsters this upcoming Christmas. I guarantee it. I have gained 200 Blue Sky followers in the past few days, or not the past few days, over the course of the weekend, and like Friday and Thursday, ever since it was announced that Twitch is removing their blocked feature. Hey, great idea. Really good idea. That is something very popular amongst all the Twitter users. So Blue Sky is pretty cool. I'm going to be posting pretty much exclusively in Blue Sky. I've always been hesitant about leaving Twitter completely, just because, like, okay, this is where most of my following is. But now, like, the people I actually care about are all on Blue Sky. So it's like, okay, do I really need like several hundred likes on a tweet to feel good about my life? No, like, I can just get a couple of likes on a post and feel good. This is equally good. Yes, Twitter's just a joke, an absolute joke. And if you're sitting here thinking, and a lot of people went to Blue Sky early on with the idea of that, oh, well, all the issues in the Splatoon community on social media are not going to exist on Blue Sky, which is true because not everybody's on there. But eventually, once everybody moves over to Blue Sky, those issues are going to pop up there too. The issues with the Splatoon community on social media was never the platform. It was always the people on the platform. Yes, Blue Sky is infinitely better than Twitter because there's actual moderation that takes place on it. The site itself is better, but don't sit here and think that being on a different site, everyone's going to stop being an a-hole. That is absolutely not the case. It's just going to get worse, more people join in. But at least it's a better site that's at least somewhat moderated. That's the benefits of Blue Sky over Twitter, not X. I'm not calling it that. News of tournaments may be of interest to the casual listener of the Popcast. SAC qualifier number 2 is taking place this upcoming Saturday. If you missed the first qualifier because you were playing in 4v4 Sundays, isn't that weird that we've reached a point with the SAC skill cap to where 4v4 Sundays is like teams have to decide between playing in SAC and 4v4 Sundays? Like, isn't that a major red flag that there's something wrong with the skill cap of SAC? But there is no 4v4 Sundays this upcoming Saturday, so SAC seemingly has that date to themselves, aside for the 6 gazillion other tournaments going on this weekend. Proving Grounds is going to be taking place on Sunday. That is a Splat Zones only double elimination tournament. This is one of the last few times we're going to be running Proving Grounds with this format. We have a brand new format that we're going to unveil later on down the line that we think is going to blow the doors wide open and change the way competitive Splatoon is seen and functioned. When I'm not sitting here, I'm just like pulling crap out of my butt when I say stuff like this. I'm being serious. We got a really good format for what Proving Grounds will be in the future. We're just not ready to unveil it just yet. So Splat Zones double limb this upcoming Sunday. Sign up to play in it and get you a little rotating spinny badge thing. Today we're going to be recapping Low Ink, Swiss, Gamma, Alpha, Beta in the correct order this time. I wrote down Alpha before Beta on my sheets, but I got it right when I said it out loud. There we go. Attaboy, Pop Gun. All of that and more. But first, today is a big day A special day, a memorable day. It's a day that we will reflect on for years to come and always think back to, because it is a day that we are going to be thinking back. That's right. Today, October 21st, 2024, is the 1 year anniversary of the time somebody went to the Low Ink Help Desk and told Brush to fix a score that was reported the previous round, and if they didn't, quote, do it before you get your entire organization in trouble, end quote. That was 1 year ago today. How about that? Man, I tell you what, that was a really scary time, because we thought that was going to be the end of IPL. We thought Brush, another team incorrectly reporting a score, and Brush starting the next round before they could raise a match dispute, even though they had plenty of time to do it, and we can't go back and fix it. We thought for sure Brush had just doomed the entire organization. That person was going to report us to the Better Business Bureau, and we were going to get shut down, and it was like, this is it. Man. But we survived that day. And that's why a year later we look back and we say, man, look how resilient we are. Look what we've overcome, because it was almost at the end of it for that day. 1 whole year. It took somebody else on staff, somebody that we just added to Low Ink this past weekend, brought it to all of our attention. And I went back to look and it was like, yep, that was October 21st, 2023. Man, wild times. What a year it's been since then. Today, less significant on the Popcast, is the 250th episode. Not really a significant number. There's nothing magical that happens on episode 250. I'm only a fourth of the way to 1,000, which is when I believe my retirement becomes vested. So we got some ways to go with that one. It does make me reflect, though, getting to one of the 50 numbers, the 250. Why am I still doing this? Like, it's been over 4 years now at this point, and I'm still on here on a weekly basis, coming on and talking into the corner of my room while random idiots in chat just type nonsense in chat, and I don't even pay attention to it. Why am I still doing this? Well, it's fun. That's really the only reason why I'm still doing this. This is, I am a big believer that life is short, and the planet has been in existence for billions of years, and I will be lucky to be awake for like 80 of them. And once I'm dead and gone, it's all over. So I might as well have as much fun as I can possibly have without hurting other people in the time frame that I got. Well, this is fun for me. It makes me pretend that I am a sports broadcaster doing a radio show. And the fact that other people have taken a part in it and have enjoyed it. And quite frankly, if this wasn't here, what would Epic Pikachu do on Mondays at 6 o'clock? I mean, there's nothing to replace something like this. So that's why I do it. Because it's fun. Originally, the first podcast started out because this was a way to tell the story of Low Level. Nobody was talking about Low Level at the time. And I was like, well, wait a minute. This is where everything is going on. Let's talk about this and have fun doing it. Well, eventually we grew a following with that. And people would come in. They would listen to me talk about them when they win Low Ink. And then they would never come back because I don't talk about them anymore unless they do something in like an SAC or they pop off somewhere else. Fine. I'm not throwing shade at anybody. I'm just saying I understand my audience has changed completely. You look back 2-3 years ago, the names in chat are almost unrecognizable to the names that are in chat right now. And 2 years in the future, you look back and say, who's Camo Ink? Who's Glitched Cactus? Who's Pick Pig? Well, it's just kind of the era. People like it when you say things about them, and that's what the Popcast has always been about. Let's point the finger. Let's not point the finger. Let's put the spotlight on other people. Let's highlight what other fellers have done in this community. And there's a lot of people who deserve those kinds of things, which is what the Popcast has always been about. if I could do a humble a brag for a second, I'm really good at this. I legit feel like I've gotten really good at doing solo podcasting in a sense, especially on such a niche topic of competitive Splatoon. I genuinely think nobody can do what I do. And that might sound a little bit conceited, but when you've done this for 4 years, I feel like I've kind of developed a talent for whatever this is, like talking to this extent. And there's still a lot of things I want to improve on. I feel like I say a lot when I'm talking, and I listen to other broadcasters like sports radio. I realize they don't say at all. What they do is they pause more. They talk, they get their sentence out, and then they go on to their next topic. And it's like, okay, I haven't even come close to mastering that yet. So there's still like some particular skills with this that I want to build up and work on. But just think about the knowledge that I have and that I've gathered in this scene, from being a competitive player to being a TO to being a commentator to doing this for as long as I've been doing it. Like, I've built up this unique skill set and knowledge of this competitive Splatoon esport thing, whatever you want to call it. And I feel like I've gotten really good at it. And quite honestly, it feels like I've gotten to the point now where I'm just kind of going through the motions, where I'm not really challenging myself. I feel like I've gotten into a rhythm of spending about 4 hours a week on this particular podcast. One of those 4 hours is what you're witnessing right now. The other 3 is basically just writing the thing. And I've gotten so good at taking all this production, all the writing for this, and just crunch it down to just a 3 hour, sometimes 2 hour thing. And it's not a burden on my life at all to do this. And that just comes through a lot of experience. But I feel like all this process over the course of this time, I'm just kind of sleepwalking through all of these things that I'm doing at this point. And I feel like I'm not really challenging myself to get any better. And I'm not really building anything. I mean, I don't know how many followers I have on this Twitch right now. I think it's like 1.4 or something like that. And granted, I had like 50 when I started off. So obviously, like, it's cool to build a channel, but I'm not like working my way to becoming partnered or anything like that. Like, I'm not working towards this channel becoming something, and I'm certainly not working towards my YouTube channel becoming something. I'm not like editing content. Like, my YouTube channel is literally just this, copy and pasted and just uploading the VOD straight up as it is. I don't put chapters down or anything. The people who leave comments in the YouTube chat, bless your hearts, they're the ones actually putting timestamps in, because I'm not doing it because I don't really care. The YouTube is just like a VOD dump, so that I have like just the record that all these things are kind of happening. But I'm not really pushing myself, and I'm not really using any of that. So I feel like all this skill for this particular that I've kind of built up, I'm just kind of wasting it when I could be using it to develop and grow something else. So about a month ago, I went to IPL's leadership, and I pitched the idea to them of the Popcast moving off of this channel and moving on to the IPL channel. And I've thought about that honestly for years. And if you follow Blue Sky, when I first joined it about a year ago, I kind of hinted at it then at that time, as like, I want to get off of my channel. Like, I would love to be a part of IPL or Dapple Productions or any kind of thing, and just help grow that other channel and put this Splatoon podcast on a competitive Splatoon channel. It seemed like to make the most sense. There's obviously concerns that come along with that. One of the main concerns, first off, is just giving up something that I created. Like this, as much as, you know, there's been a lot of people that helped out with this. Obviously, people have been making the overlays for me. I've had guest hosts cover the Popcast while I was on paternity leave. I've had, I don't even know how many different guests, how many different people have come on and been a part of the Popcast. It's not a countless number because I can sit down and count that out at some point. Maybe I will do that at some point this week. But in the grand scheme of things, this is mine. Like, I created it. Like, and I'm so stingy with stuff that I've personally created. I don't really want to share it with anybody else because it's like, well, what if that person's vision doesn't match 100% what my vision has been? It's like if I were to give this over to a different channel, it's like Toy Story 3 when Andy is giving away Woody to the next kid, and initially Andy's like hesitant to do it. It's like, wait, this is mine. Like, I can't just hand this off to you. You wouldn't appreciate it the same way I would. But as time has just kind of gone on, I just kind of starting to realize the value that something like this can add to something else and how much the product of the Popcast can improve if there's other people that have a stake in it and that there's something else that can help push it to the next level. So IPL and their team could push it to another level, putting it on a bigger channel, having more folks that are invested in it. Does it help improve my personal Twitch or my personal YouTube? No, and I'm happy to say I'm at a point now where I don't care. Like, I don't care if this channel continues to grow. It doesn't benefit me at all. Like, thank you for the people who watch and sub, but this could be used to better benefit something else. And I'm happy that after 250 episodes, I'm at that point where I'm fine with that. I've also had concerns of just when it gets moved over to somewhere else and other people have investments in it, of what I do changing in a way that I don't like. For example, to be censored in a way, not censored in the sense of not saying curse words, which I try not to do, but sometimes it's difficult. Things slip out. I never dropped an F-bomb on the Popcast, and I probably never will, but you guys push me. I'm talking more so censored as far as like the specific topics that I'm allowed to talk about. Even on this show that is on my channel, that even though we have the IPL sticker up here, and I've said before, if Dapple sent me something, I'd put a Dapple sticker right here. I'm more than happy to do that. But for this channel that is not connected to anything other than just myself, I have gotten DMs in the past from people saying, hey, I don't want you talking about this particular story, or I would appreciate it if you didn't say anything about this specific incident. And I've always said to those people, either I wasn't going to talk about that anyways because it's something I don't want to talk about, or sorry, I'm just going to talk about it because I feel like it's something that needs to be talked about. And if you don't like me for it, I'll bite that bullet, but I'm not going to let somebody tell me what I can and can't talk about. And I feel like I haven't talked about anything super crazy. I've had many sensitive topics that we had to go through, and those aren't always the funnest things to talk about, but I feel like if I didn't talk about certain things, my credibility with what I've been trying to do here would be completely diminished. And I'm proud of the fact that we did talk about a lot of uncomfortable things. I mean, this year alone, we spent a lot of time talking about splat safety, jackpots, racism, the splatter-colored screen thing. Those topics would be perceived differently, being me just saying it on this channel versus me saying it on an official IPL channel. And I went to leadership of IPL and I said, that's something you guys would need to be aware of because I don't want to change that. I don't want to be censored in any way. And they said, we're fine with that. I was like, all right, we'll test that. But they said they're fine. I was also, look, last episode, I was critical of SAC in a fair way. I feel like I was fair about it, but I was still critical of it. And would that be different to become on IPL? Like, why would you go on IPL on an IPL channel and be critical of a tournament that is on IPL? Well, they said that's fine too. So we'll test that. But I got a strong sense that leadership from IPL is behind what this podcast is and what it can be, even if it's on a different kind of channel. So I am happy to announce, starting with the next episode of the Popcast, 251, The Popcast is officially leaving this channel and moving over to the IPL channel with some updated changes, some nice quality of life things. Since there's a lot more people and a lot better production folks than what I've been doing pretty much on my own up to this point, we're hoping that the Popcast even improves a whole heck of a lot more off of this. First off, I want to bring in a second person, not so much a second host, because I feel like when you get two hosts and you're stuck with that, you really pigeonhole yourself to, okay, is this person available every day at this time? And are they actually good at talking? A lot of folks are really bad at talking. I'm not going to name names, but some folks have, and it is fair because we're not used to doing this type of talking. We're used to doing commentary with somebody else, but this form of talking is a little bit different, and we don't have a lot of people who've developed talent for that yet. But I would like a second person. And it could, initially, I see it as kind of like a rotating thing until we land on some people who are pretty good at it. But it's more so somebody who, I like to call it the moderator on duty. Somebody who's going to be there to chime in on pretty much anything. But there's no pressure for them to like give a whole script of things and hot takes on things they need to talk about. Somebody who can interact with chat. We're going to add some polls into the thing. Yes, we're actually going to pay attention to chat. Somebody who can be like, hey, this person said this in chat. Here's what I think about it. Popgun, what do you think about it? And I'll say, why are you even paying attention to what people are saying in chat? They didn't leave a highlighted message. I want to do more guest spots. One of my favorite things to do on this podcast is talk to people live. Why? Because I don't have to script any of it. All I have to do is write questions and let the other person talk and then try to like come up with more questions based on what they're saying. That is a whole different skill that I feel like I haven't really gotten that good at. You can have like your set of questions, but it's more so, how do you adapt your questions and add to it based off of what the other person is saying? And how do you ask the questions that people actually care about instead of the stupid filler questions that nobody actually cares about? Like, those are things I want to do more of. And also, this is something I really have been wanting to add for such a long time, but no, I couldn't because I just don't really have a moderated team. The Low Ink pre-show, where we bring you guys on to talk to you, kind of like you guys are calling into your local radio show. I want to do that pretty much on a weekly basis. I want to provide an opportunity for the idiots in chat to come on here and give their hot takes, to ask a question, to call me out on whatever it is that I said on a previous topic. Like, I want to be able to make this more about what you guys want it to be and bring your voices into the conversation. That is something I want to add, and I'm kind of excited for that to happen. Eventually, obviously, the production folks behind IPL are never satisfied or happy with anything, ever. Like, they're constantly looking at other tournaments and our tournaments being like, well, that sucks. That scoreboard's bad. So, like, I'm assuming somebody with IPL is going to look at this production and say, Popgun, this sucks. It needs to be better. And I'm just going to be like, okay. So that's kind of a nice feature as well. But at the core, it's still going to be the same exact show that got it to this episode mark. It's just time for an upgrade. Am I going to be sentimental that it's leaving this channel? No. No, I'm not. It's been a long time. And I'm not going to do this forever. I'm watching... My son is over a year old now. And I know the older he gets, the less I need to do with this hobby of mine, which is competitive Splatoon. Like, as the years go on, I know I'm going to be stepping away from things. And I've always said the Popcast is going to be the very last thing that I step away from. I'll leave Proving Grounds. I'll leave IPL. I'll leave Low Ink. This will be the last thing that I leave. So at some point, maybe it could be turned down or turned over to somebody else. And maybe that's part of the goal of transitioning this over to IPL. But I will say this. I want to thank you all for being a part of this up to this point. I want to thank everybody who's been on this, who's been a part of things behind the scenes. Carrot made my first overlays. Brush made the second ones, and was I think he wanted me to update some other stuff along the way, and I never really got to that. Maybe now we got a chance to do that. Sorry, the font isn't exactly correct in some spots. Nobody stopped watching the Popcast because the font was bad, all right? They kept watching it because apparently I have a headphone dent. No, I don't. My wife confirmed that I don't. Oh, and I also might get rid of the weekly recap because IPL does that now. And but I also at the same time still want to talk about the CCA as often as I can. And I like doing the NFL recaps for whatever reason. It's just something I personally like to do. So maybe I won't get rid of the weekly recaps. I don't know. Regardless, we're not at IPL yet. We still got some ways to go. And we got to talk about Paintbrush of all things coming up. So let's keep this train moving along. Before we get to the low wicket, it's time for the weekly recap. Paddling pool number 289 was won by Stillmatic. The top took second place, and Mango Heck Mech rounds out your top three. What org do you think Paddling Pool is going to go to when they get to episode number 300? I don't know. Maybe they'll come over to IPL. There's not enough room for that. Squidding Good, of all teams, took 5th place in this event. Squidding Good being one of the oldest teams, if not the oldest team that is still around today. Good to see them still playing every now and then, taking 5th place in this paddling pool. SOS number 165 took place last Wednesday. It was won by Liam Mocha Mocher. Second place went to Enrico Soul. We are getting first. And third place went to Puma's Cats. Enrico Soul, we are getting first. So Riku does not have a soul anymore, which means Riku will not be participating in the afterlife. If there is a heaven or a hell, Riku is going nowhere, to the void. Their afterlife is forfeit because they didn't win this tournament. Maybe they should have tried a little bit harder there. Only 60 teams played in SOS 165. It fell off. Hammerhead was won by New Wave. Mako Bracket won by Magical Cure Love Shot. And Lantern Bracket was won by Eepy Dreepy. Why are they in Lantern Bracket? Triton Cup number 89 was won by Mwah. Sniffers took second place, and Mango Heck Mech rounds out your top three. 2 Dapple production tournaments for Mango Heck Mech, and they get the bronze medal in both of them. 28 teams played in this Triton Cup tournament that is Splat Zone's only double elimination, which is a format that other people are saying they did first when Triton Cup's been doing a whole heck longer than all y'all. From the Ink Cup number 63 took place on Friday night. It was won by Coral Convergence. From the 8th Planet took second place, and Asphyxiation is the team that took home the bronze. If you're wondering what the 8th planet is, at least as far as our solar system is concerned, it is Neptune. And Neptune is banned from the Ink Cup because they play for Big Fat Sea Cows. So maybe that is a reference to that player. I'm not sure. 54 teams played in from the Ink Cup number 63. Squid Junction number 78 was won by the NFT Robbers Deluxe. Rose Toy Curse took second place, and Super Me Fighting Team took home the bronze medal in that one. Japan was made up. Players from Japan made up the NFT of Robbers Deluxe, who got seeded number 5, and I'm assuming because they don't play in send-out tournaments, and they curb stomped everybody on their way to Grand Finals. I think Grand Finals went to a Game 5, but they 3-0'd everybody else. Welcome to America. Nice win. Nice win indeed. The CCA post-qualifier number 2 recap that was sent to me last week. We'll do it here anyways. Division 1, the University of Central Florida, the Knights, took home Division 1. The second place went to VCU, the Big Fat Sea Cows. And third place went to the University of California, San Diego Gold. In Division 2, the University of Houston won that one. That is Crab and Go. Division 3 was won by Connecticut, the Siberian Squids. And Division 4, Soma State University Esports. Where the hell is Sonoma State? All right. I'd like to be a part of the largest college scene in the world. The CCA is rocking, by the way. This is why I like to try to talk about it, because it has a insane amount of teams that are playing in it. And by the way, they also have a podcast on Thursdays in their channel, their Discord channel. In the NFL, the Vikings take their first L of the season, 29-31 to the Lions. The Rams somehow get a win against the Raiders, 28-15. The Steelers let Russ cook in a 37-15 win over the Jets. And the Chiefs got a 28-18 win. They beat the 49ers to win the Super Bowl again. The Steelers need to start Russell Wilson for the rest of the season and then find a franchise quarterback after that. Justin Fields is not it. Sorry, not sorry. And that was your weekly recap. Sponsored by the new Low Ink staff members that took control of things this past weekend. We added 4 new staff members last week, and all of them came in and flexed. Took care of business immediately right off the bat, and we're very excited about the future of our tournament. Mixed in with the old staff that we had, the new staff, man, Low Ink is the best staff tournament of all esports on whatever planet besides Earth would have esports as well, and we're very excited about that. So the official sponsor of today's segment of the weekly recap goes out to the brand new Low Ink staff. I can't pay you guys, so that's the best I can come up with. We got a Packers fan in chat. They got to win. I forget who they beat, but I know they got to win yesterday. The NFC North is kind of busted this season. Isn't the worst team the Bears record-wise right now with like 2 losses? That's crazy. Before we get into Low Ink, the winners from the Swiss stage, Alpha, Beta, Gamma, all that stuff, I always start off with apologies when they are warranted, right? Well, guess what? I don't have to give anybody any apologies. For once, I actually kind of gave props to the right people. When you looked at who made Alpha Bracket, it's like, oh, I kind of actually know who all of these teams are, versus some of the other previous months where it's like, wait a minute, who are these teams? Like, I don't even remember verifying that team. Who is that? Did they even sign up for Low Ink? But no, like you look through the top 16, you're like, okay, we actually know who most of these teams are. The team I put at number 1, we ended up banning. So if you were to shift up my top 10, the teams that I would have had at number 1 and number 2 ended up playing against each other in grand finals, and both of them were up undefeated up to that point. So I think we got it. I think we did pretty good with that. It never works out that way. And I had the wrong team. I had Royalty beating Goober Dash, and that obviously didn't happen. Goober Dash was just a different animal yesterday. But if you were coming here hoping for me to give you an apology because I overlooked your team, no. Like, this is one of the rare times where the Low Ink went as scripted. And I don't know if that makes it good or not, but at least round 1 was good. There was only one sweep in round 1 of Alpha Bracket yesterday. And that means literally, well, not literally, but almost everybody won on their counter pick in round 1. That's impressive. Very impressive indeed. Before we get to that, though, I said I was going to come up with or I was going to do research on the amount of teams that play in Low Ink that actually play in other events as well, because there is a narrative, especially with Alpha Bracket teams, that they dodge playing in other tournaments so that they stay eligible for Low Ink so they can win it. I did not sit down and do that, but I will do that at some point this week, and I will either tweet that out or save that for the next week's episode of the Popcast, because I do genuinely wonder how many Alpha Bracket teams purposely dodge every single tournament they can just so they can stay eligible to win Low Ink. But as I was doing, I'm also going to do research on how many teams in general just don't play in open tournaments and only play in low-level stuff. I feel like, and I'll wait until I do actually do that research, but I feel like the narrative of low-rank teams don't play in other events, I don't think that's true. But we will get the exact numbers on that coming down the line. For that being said, though, before we get to that, we're not going to get to that. So what's next? Let's look at Swiss. Let's talk about the winners from Swiss. Let's get some shout-outs here, starting with the last squid standing, who went 5-1 Saturday, getting key wins over Nova Nightshade. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking ahead. Last squid standing got key wins over Octaves, RIT Orange Kois, the Fish Kissers, 400 Kilometers, and Calamity Forge Neo. Last squid standing went 4-2 in August, going 5-1 this time around, qualifying for Alpha Bracket. There's only one way this tournament ends, Lance Corporal. Last squid standing. The Fish Kissers. What a weird name. They went 4-2 in this tournament, getting key wins over Is We Throwing? Apparently. Karan's Group, Death by 100 Paper Cuts, and Underscore. As far as I can tell, the Fish Kissers is a new team made up of low-rank veterans. And if it has to be a team, because what pickup would name themselves after Fish Kissers? If you're going to kiss fishes, you got to commit to that. And I feel like that's an actual team, the Fish Kissers. Shoutouts to Nova Nightshade, who went 4-2 in this tournament, getting key wins over Brigada Woomy, the Ink Blot Dropouts, Sea Dragons, the letter C Dragons, and Ceruleum Seafoam. Nicely done for the Nova Nightshade. I'm not going to name who, but the person who verified this team basically put down, I'm not sure these guys are going to do very good. Well, they went 4-2, so they did pretty good. So there you go. I'll offer an apology to Nova Nightshade because our verification staff did not believe in you. Sigma's in chat. It's not a real thing. They went 4-2, getting key wins over High Happen, Krill Streak, Fearless, Red Leviathans as well. Rounds out the 4 wins that they got. They also took a game off of Goober Dash in round 1 of Swiss. So we forgot to seed them in somehow. I don't know how they got missed in the seeding. So we're like, well, let's just put them up against the number 1 team who's got to bye. And they actually took a game off of Goober Dash and kind of threatened them a little bit. So got their heart rate going at the beginning of the tournament. But Sigma's in chat, which is not an actual thing. There's no such thing as somebody who is a Sigma and also in a Twitch chat. They went 4-2. Nicely done. Flipside went 5-1 in this tournament, getting key wins over the Sea Splitters, Time to Win, Coral Convergence, the Whip Rays, and Non-Binary Fuss. I put Flipside in my honorable mention, and I said, go back to Alpha Bracket, and then maybe we'll put you in the top 10. Well, they went back to Alpha Bracket in dominant fashion, and they beat some pretty solid teams along the way. So Flipside is legit a top 10 team next month. Will I remember to put them in the top 10? Of course not, because I don't look at these again until it comes time for that. But I will say on the record right now, despite the fact that future Popgun will forget this, current Popgun does know Flipside is a top 10 team. They proved it back-to-back months. The Magic Beans went 5-1 in this tournament, getting key wins over X-Name, Tidal Tempest, the Biscuit Bandits, Rewind, and the Hybrid Family. That is a who's who of teams that they knocked off in the Swiss stage. My goodness, they're Magic Beans. Not bad considering the Magic Beans went 3-3 in August. And now they are 5-1, looking like a really strong Alpha Bracket team. Nicely done to them. Tidy Tidings. Blech. It's a tongue twister. 5-1 in this tournament, getting key wins over Ew-Fish, Stealing Your Gold Blocks, Gistra, the Magic Beans, and Nah, I'd Inked. Tidy Tidings got first place in Gamma back in August. This time around, qualifying for Alpha Bracket, and I believe we'll take a look at them again because they did pretty well in Alpha Bracket, you could say. Melon Float went 4-2 in this tournament, getting key wins over High Voltage, Zenkai, X-Name, and the Whip Rays. Melon Float is the team that won LSL back in January, which is how it should be. You win LSL, then you slowly build your way up. Excalibur kind of jumped the gun a little bit and won LSL and then just got banned from Low Inc outright because they were really strong. But Melon Float, nicely done to them. I believe they made beta bracket. Guess what? Chicken Butt. They went 4-2 in this tournament, getting key wins over Inked, Melon Float, X-Name, and Inkception. Guess what? Well, they dropped back in September, so we couldn't really guess how good they were. They played this time around and actually made it to Alpha Bracket. Looks what happens when you don't drop and you actually play your way through. Good things can only happen. And all those teams, good winners. Congratulations, pat on the back for them. However, there is one team that is the biggest winner from the Saturday Swiss stage, and that goes out to the team that is called This Is Fine, going 5-1 with key wins over Nova Nightshade, Last Squid Standing, Roulette, Moonshine, and Magical Cure Love Shot. My goodness, This Is Fine could not have been saying this is fine when they saw all the teams they had to play against. And, well, they got the best results that they've ever had. This has to be the best result that they had. A very strong performance. Nicely done there by This Is Fine. Congratulations. You don't get any actual rewards for being the best winner on Saturday, but you take dubs where you can get them. All right, let's take a look at Gamma and then work our way up to Alpha. Oh no, do I got to log in? Come on. I actually don't know what my Battlefy password is. I log in through Twitter, and it doesn't work on my phone anymore, so I can't log in on my phone. It's another reason why we need to move this in DAO. We got some ways to go. This is fine. Tick a game off of Goober Dash. Dang. Goober Dash sounds pretty washed. All right, Gamma bracket. What did we hit? F11? That is correct. All right. So you see Moonshine off here, and you start to think, oh, well, this is Alpha bracket. Unfortunately, no. This is Gamma bracket, and we'll talk about Moonshine obviously in a minute. Before we go any further, I do want to point out what I don't know what this is. So Determination coming in from the loser side beat Moonshine, which means they should have auto-populated the next round, but it didn't for some reason. This wasn't the case anywhere else. And we looked into it, and we don't know what happened here. I think Battlefy just glitched. So Moonshine did win this bracket. They played a bracket reset. Moonshine won it. I think we had a help desk thread for this one. So yeah, this is just a weird thing I want to point out. It looks like Determination won this. Determination did not. Moonshine actually did win this bracket. Well, let's back up a little bit. First off, I want to give a shout out here to my favorite team, Krill Streak, who made the losers run of things. After losing to Arrows of Gale, they beat Camp Flyfish, Chroma, the Night Logic, sweeping their way all the way through to a rematch of Arrows of Gale where they end up losing. But I love that I get an opportunity to talk about Krill Streak. I don't have the little wrist slap band thing that they gave me. I think I got it in one of my suitcases still somewhere, but there we go. How did Arrows of Gale beat Krill Streak? They must have cheated somehow. There's no way that could have happened. But speaking of Arrows of Gale, I do want to give them a shout out as well because they finished in third place and they had a really good run, obviously beating Krill Streak twice, Ceruleum Seafoam, Moonshine beat them up like they beat up everybody. X-Name they beat as well. Arrows of Gale, when I think of the Arrows of group, the fire, ice, and lightning, and light arrows and all that stuff, and Arrowhead, when you get teams like that are all named after the same thing, it's hard to tell them all apart. Well, can't you just say Arrows of Fire is obviously different from Gale's? Yes, but the first thing you think of is, oh, I know this is a part of a group, but I won't think of Arrows of Gale in the future as, oh, cool, the third place Gamma Bracket thing. The first thing I'll think of is, oh, they're part of that Arrow group. And I think like Arrow of Fires was good at one point. So hopefully Arrows of Gale continues to play on, and then they can start to separate themselves from the rest of the Arrow folks so that we can like, okay, this is what this brand of this team is. It's just hard to make your own brand when you're attached to so many different other things like they are, but nicely done here. They got a lot of really strong wins. X-Name did pretty good in this tournament as well. Inception, Chroma swept all the way through them, took Determination to a game 5, and then just ran out of gas here, taking 4th place. X-Name went 4-2 in September, so that's like beta alpha territory, so a little bit of a step down as far as what they did in Swiss, but they still took care of business in Gamma Bracket as anyways, going up against some pretty solid teams right here. So I wanted to give them a little bit of a shout out as well. Again, for Moonshine and Determination, Moonshine ended up winning this one. For Determination, they made beta bracket in back-to-back months. So this being the first time that they get to make a run all the way through, even though it's in Gamma Bracket. And you're not going to get many opportunities to play teams of this caliber in Gamma Bracket. And they got the best of it, at least forcing a bracket reset. I don't know how the bracket reset went, but Determination taking second place, hats off to them. But for Moonshine, the only thing they could have gotten out of this was winning Gamma. Like anything short of winning Gamma would have been a failure. And well, I think they did a pretty good job taking care of business with this. Obviously, this is not the bracket they wanted. This team went 5-1 last month, including being the only team to beat the team that won last month. So, but they didn't play on Sunday last time. So this is what it looks like when they play on Sunday. If they can just take last month's Swiss stage and this month's Sunday and put it together, they'll be the Lowink champion next month. Everybody would probably say that though, but at least they get this experience of playing the entire weekend of Lowink and having success in it, even though it might not be the success they're specifically looking for. Gamma bracket is done. We're looking at beta bracket right now. First off, I want to give a shout out to the Red Leviathans. Calamity Forge Neo, a favorite in the Lowink pre-show. They swept them. Sweet and Delicious, not to the Red Leviathans. They took Fearless to a game 5, and I think rounding out in this spot here, tied for 5th. So Red Leviathans, they went 3-3 in the Swiss stage, which just barely gets you into beta bracket. In fact, they were the number 13 seed, but they made the most of this one, getting a lot of good quality matches against these teams. This is going to pay off down the road later. Fearless taking them to a game 5, so look for Red Leviathans to kind of capitalize off the experience they get in this one, and only good things to come from that. Magical Cure Love Shot. I've taken shots at this team because they have the worst font in all of existence of all these different things here, but they're really good. Magical Cure's Love Shot is getting to be pretty solid. They're getting to be consistently good in Lowink. They won Mako bracket in SOS. They get 4th place here in beta bracket, making pretty much all their wins through loser side. So they went on the deep losers run. They beat Sonora, which is a tough team to go up against. Coral Convergence won from the Ink Up. So Magical Cure Love Shot is improving a lot, and I'm starting to feel more forgiving for how silly their name is. Before we get to the top 2, let's take a look at Fearless. The story, A Tale as Old as Time. I'm so happy that I get to play in beta bracket as the number 16 seed versus the number 1 team who's probably like, man, I wish I was in alpha, but I guess I'll just play through this. Well, Fearless made the most of this one, playing in a decisive game 3, game 5, game 5, game 5, until just running out of gas. This team played the maximum amount of games you could play winner's side without actually winning winner's bracket. So this is very good for this team. They got the most out of this 16 seed that you could possibly get. So hats off to them for being able to do that. They went 4-2 back in September this time around, doing really strongly, really clutch in beta bracket. The team had finished in 2nd place, stealing your gold blocks. did it all the way through losers bracket. Look at that. They had to win every single time. Did they not lose a single game until Magical Cure took a game off of them? That's the only team to take one singular game off of them in all losers bracket. My goodness, this is one of the greatest losers runs of all time, except the hybrid family was just a little bit different. But still, who's stealing your gold blocks? As far as I can tell, it's just a pickup of some low ink veterans. So not sure if the same name will come forward. I think one of their teams that they come from has something to do with gold. But let's not steal things, guys. Stealing things is not cool. And the hybrid family said, you guys are not going to steal this tournament from us. So the hybrid family, I've put them in the top 10 before. It doesn't surprise me that they won this beta bracket. They had to go through Sonora, who is a top 10 team. Fearless obviously gave them everything they could handle. But for the hybrid family, this got to feel good to get a dub of a tournament underneath your belt so that when they get back to alpha bracket, they have some more experience to work with on these Sunday tournaments. But I probably would not have picked them if I was looking at this. I probably would have gone with something like Sonora or maybe Magical Cure just because they've been playing so great. So the hybrid family making a statement right here should put them in the top 10 next month because beta teams always do good in alpha bracket. Speaking of which, let's take a look at alpha bracket. Who won beta last month? Honorbound did. What did Honorbound do here? Got a couple of wins. The two teams I was highlighting before in the Swiss stage, Magic Beans, beat them in a game 3, and This Is Fine eliminated them as well. Also took a game off of Royalty, one of the few teams to do that, besides guess what? So Honorbound, I would say mission accomplished. I said this is where they should be in. I wasn't really sold on who they were. Making it to alpha bracket and racking up a couple of wins along the way justifies that Honorbound is legit. Combine that with winning beta bracket last month, Honorbound is the real deal going forward. They do need a logo, though. You click on their team name, and there just says logo coming soon with the eyes emoji. Well, let's see what your logo is. It better be something crazy good with how much you're like teasing us with it. Title Disruption is the team we're going to be looking at here. They started off the day yet again by taking a game off of Goober Dash. Man, whatever it is with round 1 and Goober Dash, they're lucky that they've escaped these round 1s on Saturday and Sunday. Probably need to get some coffee or something going into their system. But Title Disruption wasn't able to get it done, but they did make the run through losers side. Inkbound, Flipside, Honorbound, Celestial, all sweeps. Like these were all these teams were in my top 10. Not that that means anything. No, wait, no, Flipside was the honorable mention. But these are like the tough name brand teams that Title Disruption went up against. And then Roulette came out of nowhere to just kind of knock them off. When I talked about Title Disruption, I had them in my top 10, and I didn't say anything about them. I just said their team name. It's because I didn't know anything about them. Well, this is back-to-back months where they've been good. I had them at number 6. They finished 4th overall. Title Disruption is the real deal. Roulette, just a little bit more of a real deal when they ended up playing against them. Before we get to Roulette, I do want to talk about Celestial. And they got a couple of wins along the way here. The 400-kilometer team, they beat Roulette the first time around. And then they got goobered. This spot, I believe this is the 3rd month in a row where the two teams that lost in winners semifinals immediately lost in round 4. This is a must win. If you make it to winners semifinals, you have to win that set because it is so hard to lose, go down here, and then because round team is between two teams that are already got a win in loser side anyways, you are playing against a team that has tons of momentum behind them, at minimum a 2-game winning streak versus you who just lost your set. So this is consistently a trap game, and I think that's just why, well, I'm not going to credit that, but obviously Title Disruption and Roulette got the better end of those two teams to get there. It almost feels like you're better off losing in round 2 than to win round 2 if you end up losing round 3. I mean, it worked out for Roulette. getting there all the way through there at the end. But there you go. I got to give a shout out to Celeste because I feel like this is a return to form to them. This is why I had them so high in my top 10 a couple of months ago. And this is obviously much better than what they get, tied for 5th overall with Tidy Tidings. This is the version of Celeste that we were kind of expecting to see last month, and we got it this month. Roulette is the surprise team of the month. I guess I don't owe them an apology. I didn't talk about them at all, but it's like there's no reason anybody would think Roulette would be this good as they end up being. Beat This Is Fine to start off the day, took a game off Celeste, and then just made the run through. Guess what? Last Hit, Squid Standing, Tidy Tidings, Title Disruption, and then took another game off of Royalty. Roulette just got a little bit too goofy. I mean, what did the double splatling pencil comp they used on tower control? It just didn't seem like maybe it made sense to them, but it really didn't seem to make sense in the game that they ended up losing. So who knows, but it was still cool to see them, and we'll see what they got going on down the road. We'll look into them a little bit more. What are you hawing and waiting about? It was Roulette that did that, right? Tower Control Art Academy. Remember the not the V heavy, but the Kraken heavy. Did Roulette pull off the heavy midline backline comp again in losers bracket again? Yeah, in a Tower Control Art Academy, they used the Kraken heavy, the splashdown splatling, the a pencil, and then I forget what they're for. I guess it was just like a splatter shot or something like that. But heavy deco, that's what it was. It wasn't ship shape. It was Tower Control, unless they did it in ship shape earlier. But it was or Art Academy is where they did it at. Yeah, it just. I don't know. It might. I'm not being like critical of teams because I'll talk about Goober Dash in a second. But I like the idea that they're coming up with something else. But it just seemed like the Lunar Blaster was just like, all right, bet. I'll have more fun with that. They pulled it off in losers round 2 against Celestial in game 4 and Tower Control as well. Okay, so probably worked a little bit earlier in the tournament, or maybe it did. I don't know. I like to see more of Roulette is what I'm getting at here. I like the ideas that they're coming up with, even if they don't actually work out when we're commentating it. Grand Finals. Again, these two teams not undefeated per games. They lost a couple of games on Saturday. I think 3 losses per game, and I don't even know how many Royalty lost. They lost a couple on the way there. But these two teams, the top 2 teams, once Excalibur got pulled out of the stone, and undefeated up till they were meeting each other. Royalty eliminating this team last month in sweeping fashion in losers bracket. Goober Dash getting the revenge against them this time around. And then when it went to this grand finals, I like the fact that Royalty switched things up. I think they realized the wiper just wasn't working, so let's try something else. And all their game plans they came up with seemed to really work out. That game 5, though, General Storm kind of hinted at the fact that it was like all the pressure is on Royalty, and I think that it's accurate. Like Royalty obviously had to win that game where Goober Dash could have lost, even though I still say if Goober Dash lost that, it's probably going to Royalty in the bracket reset just because of how difficult it is mentally to come back from that. But yeah, when you that tower control game, it just once Che got the dapples like all the way that far up, it was like, okay, this is over. And you even hear me say it as I'm commentating, like, this game's over. And like, I know it when you get that far up at the start of the game, like the other team is just in pure panic mode. It's just like, oh my gosh, this is going horribly and we have to win this game, and they're racking up all these points and we can't do anything about this one player at our base, and your mind just like speeds up and you can't really just like slow everything down. It's really hard to do that. Maybe you can slow down and mentally collect yourself in Swiss stage when you're already guaranteed to make alpha. It's a completely different thing to do it on a grand final stage. I think the speed of Goober Dash threw off Royalty in that clutch kind of moment, and it was just over at that point. And that's what Guberdasch's strategy was the entire time. Before we get to Guberdasch, though, royalty, it's it's unreal that they got to grand finals in Low Inc 2 months in a row. I think that's only ever happened two other times. I think the first time was back in 2019 when a team made grand finals 3 months in a row before they finally won it. I don't think Zestfest's been there twice, but I don't think they did it 2 months in a row. I think that it was like a month in between then. But for Royalty to get back to this point shows they're a really damn good team at Splatoon. And I'm not sitting here saying that they're banned from Low Inc because we're not doing verification for next month yet. But just from my general perspective of what I'm watching, how they curb stomped everybody 2 months in a row to get to this point, what more does Royalty stand to gain by playing in Low Inc next month? There's nothing for them to gain by playing in another Low Inc. Well, Popgun, they could obviously win it and get a badge. No, like, they had their shot. You got two opportunities to win Low Inc, and you didn't get it done. At that point, you just got to say, GG's. Like, that was our Low Inc. But it's still incredible that they got to this point. I like the adjustments they made. I don't want to be critical of counter picks just because we've limited the map pool so much. There's only so many things you can pick at this point. But, they just got goobered. They got dashed. Speaking of Goober Dash, I want to clarify something that I said as we were wrapping up the stream yesterday. I talked about how if you were in chat and you saw what Goober Dash was doing, the comp they were using, and I said, don't do that. don't use Vanilla Tint and Dapples and Paintbrush and think that it's going to work out for you in Rapid Blaster. Like, don't think all of that's going to combine and work out into your favor. What I mean by that is don't just look at their specific comp and try to copy it. What I love about Goober Dash is that they use unique weapons that they were actually good at. Yes, Dapples is a not good weapon, but in the right hands, it is deadly. We have seen players. We've seen K with Ink Sync rip people apart with Dapples in Low Inc before. We saw another player do it last month. We've never seen anybody use Paintbrush to that effect, but I'm assuming when you get that skilled with Paintbrush, it overcomes some of the weaknesses that come along with it. Nobody uses Vanilla Tint, but when you are the only person that knows how to use Vacuum and everybody else is not used to fighting against Vacuum, it seems to work out. Goober Dash, I'm happy they won because it sends the message, not so much of what like Cherry Lime was trying to send the message in the past, like, oh, you can use anything and be good at it. That's not true. That is not true at all. That's not how things work. But what Goober Dash showed you is that if you work with your one specific weapon and you just get really good at it and you overcome the weaknesses that weapon has, you can push it to a different level. And it, in a tournament like Low Inc, where you're not seeing the meta a lot, it works out. And I hope they continue to be a legit thing. And people are always, here's my gripe with this team. They changed their name to the Dash Before Time and then went to Help Desk and said, can you change us back to Goober Dash? And it's like, what if you just called yourself Goober Dash from the start? But then everybody in chat was calling them Starfish Paradigm or something like that. And it's like, well, if you wanted to be known as that, why not just call yourself that? If you just got one player, you're still the same team. It's not a pickup at that point. So like the naming for this team is going to be screwed up forever. The Low Inc Hall of Fame is going to say the Land Before Time won Low Inc, and nobody's going to know it was Starfish Paradigm or whatever. That's the unfortunate part. But I will remember the comp that they used, and it worked because they were really good at it. So if you want to get good at some other weapons that are like lower tiered, you can be successful in Low Inc with it. Just be prepared to put in a hell of a lot of time to get it up to that point. And maybe you'll win Low Inc too. After that, who knows? Maybe you'll win SAC. I don't know. The Goober Dash pickup started before I was on Paradigm Starfish. Also, Shade on Blue Dapples was awesome. Well, there you go. Fair enough. Who were you the one? There was one player that didn't have what was the tag? I saw like 3 players had a tag, and I didn't know what that is. I don't even know what Starfish Paradigm or whatever that is. I don't even know what team that is. But I know what Goober Dash is. Pretty good. So that's going to do it for today's episode of the Popcast. We are, I won't do the usual closing because the closing is going to be different going forward. Like, don't subscribe to this channel. This may be the last time I ever do a stream on this channel, unless I just do like random solo queue streams or something like that. The next episode of the Popcast will take place on the IPL channel. I hope you will join me over there, and we will continue. We'll go on for another 250 episodes. Until then, if you'd like to be a part of the Popcast in any way, feel free to reach out to me. Discord at Popgun, Blue Sky at Popgun, Twitch at Popgun25, YouTube at 25, Popgun, Anchor.fm, blah, blah, blah. Let's raid. Oh, let's go to this feller. Make sure you guys get vaccinated. What do you mean that's incorrect? There we go. Get vaccinated. Stay safe. Both flu and COVID vaccines. You can get them at your local CVS or Walgreens or something like that. And try not to die. Living is pretty cool.